in New York City, so
What's that?
What?
You get the big old sigh.
I don't know. I just said hello. Welcome into Call Your Mom. How we doing? How we doing?
Oh, what's up?
How we doing? So, how was your week?
It was good. Yeah, it was
Anything stand out that was exciting?
good. Well, there was a WNBA draft.
I love it when you bring up what I want to talk about. Thank
Yeah.
you. Here's why I love the draft. It is this culmination, and most of these young women I have known since they were freshmen in college. We get to know them at such an early age, and you watch them grow up right before your eyes. And so it really is this beautiful, like, I feel kind of like the proud mom moment at this moment of watching these young women achieve their dreams, and it's really special. And one of my favorite parts of it is the parents at the draft. And we told this story about Haley Van Lith. Her dad would rent out the elementary school across the street so they could go work out at like 5 a.m. or after school. And I was just imagining this little girl trotting across the street at 5 a.m. to work out with her dad. But all of the work, and she was like, shout out to my blue collar family. You know, she's such a blue collar worker. All these parents have poured a lot into these kids for this moment. And it was really emotional and really special. But it got me thinking about young people, young players, and how parents are motivating their kids. And are they doing too much, not enough? What does that look like? How did I try to motivate you as a kid? Do you have any specific memories?
No, I don't. But you were always very, a lot of just very, if I wanted to do something, you would provide options and ways to do it. That was I think the best thing. It was never like, go. Like, you were never really on me about anything. If I expressed any interest, you would just provide resources for that interest, which I think was a very good way to kind of get me.
That sounds
get
healthy.
me motivated. Yeah.
So I do remember one bad.
Was surprising.
No, I was grateful to hear that I did something right. I do remember one time I was trying to motivate you to get your homework done more efficiently, and you were just not having it. I think you were maybe in 5th or 6th grade, and you just would not get your homework done, and we would fight about it, and it would be a thing. And so one time I said, well, if you don't get this homework done, you don't get to go to New York City to the Heisman with me. And so I came to pick you up from school, and what was not done?
I didn't do my homework. The thing with that was I didn't care. I didn't like New York City at the time, and I had expressed that.
So you didn't care about going.
So it wasn't, and it more just felt like pressure. It didn't feel like motivation because I was like, I don't really want to go on that trip in the first place.
Because I was thinking it would be so cool and you could go. Because it was, so he missed the Reggie Bush Heisman because his homework wasn't done. But now we learned 25 years later that you didn't care.
I probably told you that too, but but it was the way there's a difference between. Okay, I have 3 things I want to say, and then we'll get into the stuff we want to talk about. Thing number 1, I didn't like New York, but you love New York, and so like I enjoyed that part of it, and like I would like the Toys R Us, right? But like it stressed me out. I felt it was a lot when you're little, especially. Like it was just I just felt like an immense amount of just being overwhelmed.
Okay.
So I never really like had a love for New York City. It was just kind of a lot, and I was just kind of like running behind you. But you loved it, so I was happy to do it. But so then when it becomes a year thing, and it's like that in my young mind, going to your work, because I don't know what the Heisman is. I wasn't super following sports. I don't know what any of that stuff is.
So I'm building it up to be this big exciting trip and like, thing, and you don't.
I'm being punished. Now I'm getting extra pressure, so I can go to work to go to a thing that you like.
When you say it like that, it sounds really psycho.
Yes. Another thing, when I talk to you about my feelings about something, or I'm saying like, hey, you're doing this, you, for some reason, have really locked in on it being negative and that you didn't do things right. And it's just a conversation. I'm not trying to, I think there's something that happens where you're very focused on it being a negative, and like, I did this wrong, or blah, blah, blah. It's a conversation. I'm not trying, I apologize if I'm doing it poorly and making you feel that way. That's my bad. But that is not a healthy way for us to make gains in
parenting.
parenting.
No,
or
I
in
was
our
just
own
having this
relationship.
thought, like my mind was racing because I brought you to New York City every spring break as a teenager because I thought you loved it.
I liked the Toys R Us.
But
And
remember,
I liked the plays, but
because we would come
the
and go to
whole
plays because you wanted to be an actor. So I
yeah,
was
but the whole it
like, oh,
was
then we'll go see all
yeah,
these shows.
and that's I'm not saying like that was a bad thing at all. That was great, but it was definitely like, oh, I got to go do this thing for my mom.
Oh, interesting.
I never really sat and like thought like, oh, what do I want to do?
Oh,
It was kind of just like we're going to New York, and then you would do things that I would like there. So then it was like, okay, this is fun, this is good. It's like when
okay.
you go to like, imagine going to your parents' work. You don't understand what it is, and then they like give you something, so you're like, oh well, this is nice at least. Like I'm might have a good time while I'm here. Like you
Right,
give me
right.
you put me in a you put your son in a room at the office, and he watches a movie, and he's like, oh well, I had a good time. It's the office, but I had fun. Like it's very much that. So it was a positive experience. I want that to be the main takeaway because I think a lot of time
That's not the main
you
takeaway.
just go straight to he hated New York and he's saying I'm the worst mom ever. It's not that.
That really is what I'm hearing right now.
It's not that at all.
Okay.
I got a bunch of great experiences because you loved the city, and now I learned to love the city.
Because I wanted to say, where are we recording the podcast
and now
from?
But then I learned, I didn't want to come here, but then I learned to love it, and now I like don't know where else I would live. So it's there's nuance. But I think we always kind of just land in this like,
what did mom do wrong now?
I feel like in your head when I'm just talking about something, you hear like, and I'm like, I'm very appreciative of it, but the whole point of the podcast is to talk about stuff.
I get it. I hear you, honey. I hear you. Well, that brings up a good thing because WNBA Draft, it was exceptional. Paige Buckers went number 1. Just these really beautiful moments, lots of tears. One really cool moment was Caitlin Chen. She's a young lady that played at Princeton, and I just happened to cover her games the last couple of years that I've just become obsessed with because she's short, she's little, she's all the things that you don't think a basketball player will be, and all she does is win at every level she's ever been at. And so she got drafted in the 3rd round by the Valkyries, and it was a surprise. She was literally just there at the draft to watch Paige Buckers get drafted. She's sitting in the front row. Well, she was sitting in the back row, and I just had a feeling she might get drafted. So I asked one of her teammates, I said, hey, why don't you go get Caitlin and see if she'll come sit up here? Because I just had a feeling she might get drafted. And sure enough, a little while later, she got drafted. So that was a cool.
Do you guys don't ever find out when people are...
No, we don't know.
You guys have no inside
information. I don't know until...
Not inside information.
No, we have no inside information.
Oh, that's interesting.
I know it when the commissioner says it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's cool. But anyway, that was a great experience. Big dreams coming true for the WNBA, for these players. But it brought me to this. So there's a young man that I follow. I met him at an event. I follow him on Instagram, Justin Sua. He's a mental performance coach. And so I reached out to him because he is doing these clinics for kids and parents called Win at Home High Performance Parents Workshops. And so we have a guest. Justin Sua is going to join us right now.
See you later.
Well, we are so excited to be joined by our next guest. Justin Sua, I met you as we were both presenting at the Golden State Warriors. I think it was the sponsors retreat.
Yes.
And I was on one panel, you were on another panel, and I stayed to listen to yours, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's amazing. You are the CEO of the Performance Advisory Group, and teams around the country, from the Red Sox to the Tampa Bay Rays, NFL teams, bring you in to help people with their mental performance. But why we wanted to talk to you is because you are doing this workshop. I found it. I've been following you since we met. And I found this post that you had made about these seminars you are doing for parents called Win at Home High Performance Parents Workshops. So we are constantly discussing what I've done right, what I've done wrong.
You're discussing. I'm just having a conversation.
But we're going to take all the help we can get. But I love it. How did you have this idea, first of all, that parents, particularly in sports, need help on how to coach our kids?
There's a couple of, first of all, thank you so much. I am so grateful to have this conversation and really even inspired by the mother-son combination. I've heard of some of your episodes and this is awesome. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. But there are two kind of distinct moments when I realized that this is my passion, like families are my passion. I was a Little League baseball coach back in 2007. And that's when I was getting my master's degree in sports psychology. And so I'm learning these tools to help the kids kind of with the mental game. But then one day something happened. I started hearing from the stands, moms and dads say, "Hey, Billy, relax," without teaching them tools on how to relax. This dad would tell their child to focus without teaching them tools on how to focus. And a light bulb went off in my mind. I'm like, no one has a bigger influence on their children than the parents, especially as young kids. Why don't I share with parents what I'm learning? I'm not the guru, I'm not the expert, I'm just this grad student, and give parents tools because no one better than the parents to teach these things. And one group of parents turned into another group, to where I was approached by a publisher to write a book called Parent Pep Talks. And I remember telling them I am not writing a book because I have three children, a parenting book, because I have three children myself. And I think I'm the worst parent. And I am not one to go and give parent advice. It is such a sensitive, like, who is anyone to give, like, again, like, but they're like, no, these are tools. It's a resource. I'm like, okay, let's do that. And so we just kind of went off from there. Then my career kind of took off in the pro sports world. Like you said, helping coaches in the Boston Red Sox, in the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Cleveland Browns, and the Houston Texans, and Utah Jazz. And it just kind of started growing a little bit. But then leads to the second moment. I would, just the other day, 2 weeks ago, I'm speaking to coaches in the NFL. And when it's done, coaches would come up to me and say, this actually is going to help me more in my house than with my coaching staff. And then all of a sudden I'm like, huh. And I get it all the time. I'll get coaches, I'll meet with them and they say, yeah, we have this big game coming up on Sunday, but hey, can we talk about how do I help my daughter be confident? And a light bulb went off. I thought, wait, you know what? There's something to this parenting thing, and let's talk about it and let's create a workshop about it. And that's kind of the genesis of it.
So your workshops are coming up. People can register at Justin Sua on Instagram. There's a register link, and they start April 20. We looked at this up. What was it?
Yeah, so Monday.
Yes.
Yep. So they start. So this Monday. Yeah. Let me. My dates. It's all like jumbled.
Dates are a nightmare.
Yeah, right. So,
it's the worst.
Cohort number one starts the 21st Monday, and cohort number 2 starts the 22nd. And so it's 4 Mondays in a row, and then cohort 2 is 4 Tuesdays in a row.
Oh, I love it.
I got you.
So we have talked about this for so many years because I am a highly motivated person. He is wired very different than me. And what are some of the challenges we've had of me? Like, you just need to be more motivated. You just need to. And that hasn't gone well, has it?
No. So not at all. But I have a question. You've listened to some episodes.
Yeah.
Right. So just give us some feedback.
I will.
Give one person some feedback.
Here's something that I think, Holly, I'll speak for you because it's for parents. Not the kids are not going to be in this, but something that you have, and McKylin, feel free to add to it or even disagree. I'm a huge fan of disagreeing and so forth and giving different perspectives. But when I listen to your conversations, one of the things that we hear a lot of times is with parents is like, my way is the highway and my opinion is my opinion, and my opinion, your opinion should be my opinion. And there's one thing that you do very often, Holly, and I wanted to ask you on this conversation, is it from your training? Have you learned this? But there are some of these conversations where you're very non-judgmental. What are you thinking? How is your heart? Like, you want to know deeper. There are 3 sources of 3 kind of levels of communication. There's the surface level where, or knowing somebody, which basically the things that everybody knows. Then there's the second layer where you know them well enough to to kind of know how they're going to respond to certain things. And then the deepest level number 3 is the only way you know that thing about them is if you provide them a safe place for them to share it. And I notice, Holly, even in these conversations between you and your son publicly, you'll ask these questions that the only way you'll know it is if you ask it, and McKylin has to say it. You can't jump to conclusions. And it's even the little things. And that's just one thing that I noticed is your ability to ask effective questions. And I don't know, Holly, what do you think about, I don't know, that response? And again, I'm only getting a snapshot of 2 episodes.
Right.
And then McKylin, I'm just curious on what you think about that as well. And feel free to disagree both. But I'm curious on Holly, if that's something that you do on purpose, even off the camera.
Well, I think part of my job at ESPN is asking questions. So I think I've done it for a long time, but I think the reason I maybe have my job is I'm so curious. And so I think it comes from a genuine sense of curiosity of help me understand this. I think I can be an overbearing personality sometimes with my son. And so I don't want to be. I don't want to be that parent that just railroads over their kid. And so I genuinely want to understand, how did you process this, or how did I make you feel? Like I deeply want to know that. So maybe it's just genuine curiosity, maybe.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you think about that, McKylin?
I think it's genuine curiosity. I also think there's a little bit of like, I'm trying to think of the wording for it, but there's like, am I doing okay? Energy, and which is very, and I think that willingness to be like checking in it's very helpful, because then it's not just like, it's not as much my way or the highway as much as that is a part of the relationship. That's every parent, but it's not too much of that. There's a genuine like checking in. I think that complements the curiosity.
So do you mean I'm checking in on you? Are you doing okay? Or am I checking in? Am I doing a good job as a parent for you?
Let me see how, like, what's...
Oh.
And that's also because, now I'm an adult, so it's that we can actually have a conversation about it. I think that's a big thing that's tough for younger kids, is they can't really express their emotions.
I love that you said that, because a lot of times the reason I struggle with parenting advice sometimes is it doesn't respect the nuance and the complexity of situations, the relationship between the parent and the child, the context, the emotionality, even the age. McKylin, you said it, you're an adult, you're a grown man versus having an 8-year-old when you were 8. And one thing that I see, and again, I could be totally wrong, and I understand that. One thing that I have struggled with personally as a dad is I saw my children when they were fresh out of the womb. Like, we have 3 children in 18, 17, 16. And sometimes I see them as a baby. I change their diapers. And sometimes as they grow and they have their own opinions and their own thoughts, I still see little Maya. I still see little Jerem. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's 18. Okay. All right. How do I help him improve decision making and nudge him toward and consider and be aware of considerations rather than this is what you need to do? Have you, I guess, McKylin, how is that? I see you kind of nodding and pointing. What are your thoughts as I say that?
Well, that's just it's a natural thing, and it can be annoying, but I think it's one thing kids need to learn. I think parents can help kids come to the water on this, is that, like, it's okay to just, like, tell me how you're feeling, because, like, when you're being infantilized in those situations, even though that's not a great word, well, it's exactly what it is, but it doesn't sound, it's a negative word.
Yeah.
But it is infantilizing, and so it's figuring out how to work through that. You have to actually open up the conversation of, like, I see you as a child. I understand that you're an adult. So let's give each other some grace. Like, I think the more you create equality with each other is very helpful. Like you're saying, like, it's tough not to do that. And once I understood that and learned that, then it's easier for me to be like, okay, I get it. You're not being rude. You're just...
It's like he's frozen in this time in my mind. Like, he is still my little boy. And I have tried to treat him like the competent, wonderful adult that he is. But you're right, is like, I think sometimes our kids are captured in our heart and in our mind in certain ages, and it's hard for us to let them grow up. It's really hard.
It's interesting to say that. The reason this comes up a lot, coaches at the highest level go through the same thing. They'll draft a young a puppy with big paws, and in baseball in particular, they'll draft sign a young 16-year-old from the Dominican Republic, and he's 16. And then all of a sudden, as he's growing, these coaches have to grow as well and realize, oh wow, I labeled him this label when he was 16, but he's 28 and he's growing. He need to make decisions. And so coaches talk about that all the time. And it's interesting to see how the same phenomenon happens in the home. McKylin, I'm actually curious from your perspective, from your perspective as a son, what are certain things that your mom does that as an adult right now that you really appreciate?
Oh, the list goes on and on and on. It's never ending. The amount of opportunities and experiences that she provides me with and gives me, and like even yesterday, we had a slight disagreement because I couldn't go to dinner because I was working, but she still bought me food while I was at the dinner. You know, like just like those little. It's like you appreciate it so much because it's like even when I'm not there, you're like, oh, I got you some food just in case you can do something. I'm like, and I want to be annoying, be like, I'm tired, I want to go home, and I'm like, oh, but the love is still so much there, and so that's one of the biggest things I appreciate is there's always a thoughtfulness and always just like, you're good, can I get you something, which is very sweet.
That is awesome. And I'm just out of curiosity, Holly, how much did you know that he appreciated that from last night?
No, I think I tiptoe on a line of I feel like I'm constantly annoying him. Like kids can be like annoyed with their parents, and so I feel like I walk on a balance beam sometimes of like, I love you so much and I want to be by you and do this and this, but I don't want to annoy you. I think moms a lot live in this space of, but I don't want to be annoying.
Which, to be honest, that is more annoying. If you just be yourself, we can come to a meeting. If you're over here being like, then all you're getting is like, what do you want?
What do you do?
I feel like you feel that as a son as well, right?
I feel you're right. You're absolutely right. And Holly, you said something as well. I want to say this just publicly. My wife, I always tell her, and we always talk to each other, and like, I will never tell a mom how to feel or what the mom should do in particular. I am not in the business of giving moms advice, and then even for dads for that matter. It's just more of a generative conversation. So what you two are doing right now, that's what we're trying to create in the homes. These conversations between parent and child to where answers and discovery emerges. And as you do so, there's might be some things that come out, and that's okay. One thing that we say too is we think these happy teams. I'll just say this: I've worked with a lot of very high level teams, and what people probably underestimate is they don't realize how much conflict is in those rooms. Conflict is okay, and disagreeing is okay. Yes, there's to a point not where you're like mudslinging on each other and all of that, but that's where a lot of growth happens. And sometimes people don't want to have those conversations. And so we want to teach people, how do you have these open conversations that might be not disagreeable, but where you have disagreements, where there's a term called psychological safety out of Harvard, Amy Edmondson. And psychological safety is where I feel safe to share my opinion and you feel safe to share your opinion. And when it's all said and done, the best answer is going to come from it. And we might not agree. We still love each other, but we feel safe to share these things. And I remember telling a coach, hey, we need more psychological safety with the coaching staff. And I remember him like just walking at it and saying, that is the softest thing I've ever heard. No, we don't. We need to win. And then I just started laughing and I said, okay, let me help you understand what psychological safety is. I said, you are the number one decision maker on the field. Everything comes through you. He goes, that's right. And I said, an environment where there's lack of psychological safety, people might feel afraid to share with you important information that might make you mad, but is important for you to enhance your decision-making skills. And a light bulb went off. He goes, he goes, there may be someone who's not sharing information with me because they're afraid of how I'm going to respond. And I said, yes, that is a lack of psychologically safe environment. Now, the contrast to that, imagine all of you guys at a bar and you're talking about who's the GOAT in basketball or football, and you're disagreeing, you're going back and forth. That's psychological safety where everyone could throw in, you can debate. He goes, that's what I want to create. And so it's like, yes, that's what we want to create, even in the homes as well, a place where McKylin and our kids could share. Obviously, there's a parent-child power dynamic that is different than business and pro sports, but just trying to create some of these tools where people can feel safe to share their opinions and thoughts, and parents to create an environment that can bear the weight of truth.
I feel like sometimes you're scared to tell me stuff because you think
All the
I'm going to
time,
get mad.
constantly. Yep.
So, so how do you create psychological safety for your kids?
Yeah. So actually, McKylin, how do you share things like that when you think it's going to?
You got to rehearse it and figure it out beforehand, and then eventually you get to our producer will believe it, but you get to a stage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you're just like, I just got to do it, and then you just get. But then what ends up happening is it ends up being worse because you're coming in guns blazing for your own.
You've worked it up in your
conversation
mind.
that you've had with a fictional, scary version of you. And so now instead of talking to you, I'm talking to two versions. One I've made that is a demon who's is going to like kick me out of my house or something. And then the other is the actual version of you who's, is just listening.
So you build it up in your mind to be scarier than it needs to be.
Yeah, you create this golem of ideas and all the times that you've been scary, as opposed to just talking to you, where you might not actually be scary, you might just be frustrated.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of strategies that may be able to help. And again, I'm from the camp that all frameworks are wrong, some are useful. And so meaning like I'm not a believer that, just do X and Y and boom, the ideal result will bubble out of this conversation. That's just not how human behavior is. And so these are more suggestions and frameworks maybe to guide and to help. One thing that separates you, McKylin, from the average person, I will say, is your high level of self-awareness and situational awareness. And also, and I think it's just a number one, your DNA. And then number two, even in this conversation, you're very aware of the perspective of your mom. Like, hey, she might be thinking this, or she might be like that. That's not normal. And so some people are like, they have to learn that. Like they don't even consider the other person's side. They are looking from their own perspective. They don't even take time to pause and ask the question, I wonder, what would my mom have to believe to be true in order to be acting this way? Oh, she probably believes this. She's probably going through that. That exercise alone is a game changer. Mm-hmm. It seems like it's naturally operating. So I can just hear how you're saying that. And you just almost like subconscious or unconscious competence. So here's a little framework. A couple of axioms. The longer you hold on to something, the heavier it gets. And I believe that's true with hard feedback. Like, I want to say it. It gets heavier. Until it's like, okay, I need to share this. An example I always give to people, I have players and coaches hold out their cell phone and they just kind of hold it up. And I said, okay, how do you think you can hold your cell phone up for a minute? And these NFL guys and NBA guys, and they're like, of course. I was like, do you think you can do it for 3 hours? They're like, ooh, can you do it for 2 straight days? And like, no. I said, well, it's still only same weight. And it's the longer you hold on to it, the heavier it gets. And so that little text message that you didn't like, that little passive aggressive comment that may be a passive aggressive to you, but it wasn't to them. They didn't even think about that you hold on to, the heavier it can get and snowball. And so how fast can we resolve it? Now, if you're struggling to have the conversation, here's a framework. It's called the ask, tell, ask method. And so the ask, tell, ask. So this is you, McKylin, going to your mom, or you, Holly, going to McKylin, and you just say, here's the first ask. You say, hey, something's been on my mind, or I've been thinking about something. Can I just bounce it off of you? Can I share with you something that's been on my mind? That's the first ask. You're literally telling them, hey, I've been thinking about this. That's the first ask. If they say yes, then that's kind of like, okay, now we're entering the conversation. And so a lot of times that's because people don't know how to start it. Like that's how you start it. Then comes the tell. And then I'll just play Holly out just because I'm more of a parent side. I'll just say Holly, then you would just say what's on your mind. Hey, I've been feeling this. I've been saying this. But when you say what's on your mind, it's not this antagonizing, judgmental, okay, this has been on my mind. You've been this. It's like, okay, no, that's not all of a sudden McKylin's guard's gonna go up. It's this non-judgmental, curious, almost a scientist, like, I feel like this. And then you also have to sprinkle in this humility, like I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but it seems like you're a little bit more frustrated with me. It feels like that you just don't care as much anymore. It feels like I care about your future more than you care about your future. It feels like you're not really committed to what you say you're going to do, and you just kind of go. And then you say also, Holly, it's understanding his situation. Yeah, maybe it's this or maybe it's this, but I don't know. That's just been on my mind a lot. That's your whole tell. And then you ask. Then you say, what do you think about that, McKylin? What do you think about what I just said? You literally give him the floor. And now McKylin can say, you know what? You're right. And it'll lead to a great conversation. Or McKylin will say, you are absolutely wrong. And then it will lead to a great conversation. But the cool thing is that you at least were able to, like, we're all about opening channels of communication to be able to say things. And then you will create this generative conversation and understanding and answers, and things might emerge. But that's the ask, tell, ask method. And it can work both ways, the parent to the child to the parent. And it really, the humility aspect of it is the big piece of it. And so this is what we teach head coaches and coaches in pro sports, because they are working with players who are making more money than them, some cases older than them, some cases just better than them. It's like, and the players, like, sometimes coaches are like, who am I to give LeBron James coaching? Who am I to give Caitlin Clark coaching? Like, who am I to tell Coco Gauff how to do this when she has accomplished more in her career at her age than I will ever? And so this is the ask, tell, ask model that coaches could lean into to kind of create this generative conversation. That's just a framework.
I love that. Okay, so I don't want to keep you too long because you're so generous with your time, but thank you.
No,
I did want to get to, because you really specialize in mental performance, process and development, mental conditioning. And I feel like, these workshops that you've got coming up, Win at Home, for parents with kids in sports. I am living my life in the sports world, and I am around a lot of parents and seeing a lot of parents. And, the pressure that kids are feeling these days is magnified, and parents are putting some of that pressure on kids. So I wanted to ask you, for a lot of our sports listeners, how can parents help motivate their kids, support their kids, push their kids without creating anxiety and pressure on their kids?
This is such a great question, and I think we can answer this in a book. We can have a whole
How much time do we have?
Keep it succinct and keep it simple and practical. I will say, to start this out, there have been many moments where a player would come to me in the sideline or after a game, grown adults, 30s with children, who've been they've secured the bag, so to speak, and we're eating dinner after the game, and they say, my mom's going to be so mad at me, or my dad's going to be so mad at me. And these are grown athletes who are at the tip of the spear. And I'm not going to say any names because it would be mind blowing. And so even then, it goes to show how impactful and how powerful the parents are. So I will say a couple of things. Number one, as a parent, to remember, and I'm coming from the side of the athlete working with the athletes, it's important, imperative to remember that the words that you say to your children consistently end up becoming the self-talk of the child, especially at the young age. You're this, you're that. I've had children, when I worked at the IMG Academy, tell me, I'm terrible, I'm weak, I'm weak-minded, I'm not mentally tough. They'll just go off on their own self-talk. And I'm like, where did you get that? They're like, oh, that's what my dad tells me I am. Oh, that's what my mom tells me I am. Like always, I'm never good enough. I can't do this. And so we have to rewire them to teach them how to speak to themselves. And so teaching the kids, you are the most important person you speak to every day. So speak purposefully, powerfully, productively. Now, I will also say, I operate in a zero sum game. There are no participation trophies at the highest level, at the WNBA and NBA and we play to win. You've got to be, I mean, they're a dog like these. And so this isn't, I don't subscribe to everyone's okay and the coddling. And no, we're trying to build relationships to where they can thrive so that so there's this combination, the balance between challenge and warmth. You want to have a little bit of both. And so then the final piece I will say, use the word motivation. And so we'll have parents ask and coaches ask, how do I motivate my players? How do I motivate my son? And a more effective question could be, how do I create an environment where my son motivates himself? How do I create an environment where my daughter motivates herself? And according to the research of motivation theory, there are 3 things that really help motivate yourself. So the first one is competence. So they want to build skills. As long as our children feel they are getting better at something, we call it perceived progression, motivation is going to go up. Am I getting better? Did I get better today in something, in anything? How did you improve? Maybe I did. Maybe I did it. I rocked around the block instead of sitting at home. That's something. Something is better than nothing. And parents and coaches, we need to be able to catch them winning. So perceive progression, build their competence. Number 2 is build their sense of control. The moment we take a child's autonomy, you're doing this, they are not going to want to do it. There's one time I was working with a youngster, and his challenge was, I said, do something without being told to do. You were told to do. And he was playing video games one day, and he dropped his video games to go wash the dishes without being told. Yeah, exactly. Like when he told me the story,
Wow.
that is mind blowing. So he's walking to the dishes. This is a 14-year-old young man. He's walking to the dishes, and then he tells me his mom from her room yells out, I'm just going to say, Tommy, hey, Tommy, get off the video games and go wash the dishes, while he was already going to do it. And Tommy goes, do you know what I did? I turned back around and I went and started to play video games.
Nah.
It made him angry.
Tommy, he goes, I was going to do it myself. And the moment I was told to do it, I didn't want to do it anymore. And so It's interesting. Again, I still do it, Tommy. Listen to your mom. But that just goes into human behavior. What can we do to bring out their autonomy? Now, we're not just going to let the kids just go crazy, do whatever you want. A strength and conditioning coach uses it this way. All right, team, you're going to condition. Do you guys want to run gassers, or do you guys want to do this thing? Oh, okay, we want to do this. So you're going to condition, but this is what we're going to do. All right, Eliana, you're going to eat vegetables. Do you want to eat broccoli, or do you want to have asparagus? Okay, I'm going to go broccoli. So you're still eating your vegetables. And so somehow to give them autonomy. Now with McKylin, a grown adult, helping McKylin realize his options, helping our children realize, okay, you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do this. Okay, now let's look at probabilities. If you do this, and just looking at it that way, so increase autonomy. And then last but not least is strong relationships, building a strong relationship. If you have your ability to motivate a person will be enhanced to the degree your relationship is strong with them. If you don't have a strong relationship with them, if they don't care, if they don't think you care about them, they don't think you love them, they don't value your opinion, there is nothing you can do to motivate them. They might do things in spite of you. Like, you want me to be a doctor? Okay, now because I don't like you, I'm not going to ever be a doctor. And so that's one of the things, is building relationships. So those are the things. If you as a parent are listening to this, you're like, how do I motivate my child? Think, okay, how do I create an environment for them to motivate themselves? Let me help them feel like they're getting better at something, perceived competence. Let me improve their sense of control. Let them decide, okay, and just guiding them. And then number three is let me build a stronger relationship with them and build that relationship equity so that they will value my suggestions and recommendations better down the road.
So good. So good.
I love it.
All right. And is it too late to start when your children are this age?
Yes.
But I want to say, here's the thing. Honestly, it's we're never too late. Like, honestly, it's building the relationship. It's just constantly just going and growing. And this is why these coaches are so great. A lot of the best coaches, they just don't give up on players. When everyone else gives up on people, the best coach is like, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stay in there. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to control my own emotions. I'm not going to get offended myself. I'm going to take care of myself and make sure I'm in the green as opposed to the red. And what am I doing to stay calm and be where my feet are? Am I buying what I'm selling myself? Because kids and players you know this, Holly. Athletes have an unbelievable radar. When you go into their environment, they know who's around, and then okay, who would, and so
Who's real? Yeah, who's real?
Exactly.
Yeah, I have one athlete I wanted to just mention quickly. I remember coach at Louisville is a man named Jeff Walls, and he had an athlete named Shoni Schimmel. And Shoni kind of came in. She was a little out of shape, whatever. And he really loved that kid. And he said, I can play you if you are riding the bike and you are in shape. You can play if you're in shape. So she would ride the bike. She loses all this weight. Her last year, she gets them to the Final Four. Louisville goes to the Final Four, plays for a national championship. And it was a 4-year process of holding her accountable every day out of love. And he changed her life. Then she went to the WNBA, was the MVP of an all-star game, So I love what you're saying of, I do want to motivate you, but I want to give you space to do it at your own level, but then never give up on you no matter what.
I love that. I love that. And Holly, I'm just kind of curious, as those who are listening to this, you have so many people who respect you, myself being one of them, as a mother, as a professional, iconic, like a legend in the field. What advice do you have for parents in order to build a strong relationship with their kids?
I think my biggest advice would be, don't make it about you. I am at these games constantly, and I am interacting with parents constantly. And there's a level of parents that want to be in the limelight and want to be the one talking to the coach and want to be the one that's interacting. And then there's the parents who are just in the background and are just there supporting their kid no matter what. And so I would say, don't make it about you. Don't be that parent that's so invested that this is about your ego and your legacy, and let your kids be the stars.
If you end up clipping anything from this podcast, that would be my vote for the clip.
That's a good one.
That was absolute.
Yeah. That was great.
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, anyway, right. Well, we'll let you go.
Before we let you go, we do chaos theory, which is where, I don't know if we did it on the episodes you heard, but where we just pick a random question out of a cup or a hat. So I wrote some questions. Let's see what we got for you. Okay, what's the most annoying, other than this question, what's the most annoying question that you deal with or have to work through on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, that's a great question. The most annoying question is, especially starting earlier, the most annoying question is, my child is mentally weak. How do you fix him? Or how do you fix her? Like, it's just like, oh my gosh. It's just like, for me, it's just, my child is mentally weak. How do you fix them? Like, and it's it's coming from a good place, or it's, I'll get parents saying their child is like their spouse. Like, how do my child is like my wife, or my child is like how do I make them not like that at all? And so that's always, and I wouldn't say annoying, but it's just kind of, there's so much nuance to it, but we get that.
A lot of control there.
It's like, you just see a long road. Emerging out of them, right when I say that, like, oh no.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, we don't want to keep you any longer. Thank you so much, Justin Sua. Be sure to check out this Win at Home high performance workshop for parents and kids in sports. wonderful mental performance coach. And follow Justin at Instagram, Justin Sua. You are wonderful. I learn something every day. I really do kind of stalk you on Instagram because you sit down and have these long conversations with athletes and what they're going through and how they trust you to share their inner journey. So I really recommend to all of our listeners to follow you because it's fascinating. What
Thank you
you
so
do
much.
with players and performance, it really is fascinating.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Holly, and thanks, McKylin. Thank you both for taking
Thank you,
time,
man.
and honored that to be here with you both. Thank you.
I've learned a lot, and most important thing is ask, tell, ask strategy. We will be doing that later today.
We'll do it
Awesome.
on the podcast.
We'll do it later.
Awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Unbelievable.
Great. Yeah.
Did you learn? I feel like we were in a therapy session.
Yeah.
Did you learn a lot?
I did. I had a bunch of questions and he just answered all of them. He was amazing. He interviewed us.
He's got such good energy. Like,
Yeah.
I just vibe with him, but he really is able to help people. You know, he's worked with the Boston Red Sox, the Tampa Bay Rays, all these high level teams, the Utah Jazz. So I will be doing the ask, tell, ask technique. So when I do that, you'll know exactly where it came from. And I want to give you power to do it with me. And then my other takeaway was psychological safety is being better at providing a space for you to feel like you can communicate and say anything, that you have psychological safety with your mother. Okay, so we're employing our ask, tell, ask, where our communication will be improved greatly starting tomorrow.
Both.
Thank you for joining us today. Call your mom.
Call them. Goodbye.